A fight so large, you better believe we're getting out in front of it. UFC 257, just a little bit over 2 weeks away. Fight Island, Abu Dhabi, McGregor, Poirier, part 2. Morning Combat here with a little bonus action. The Brian Campbell, you know this face, one half of your weekly installment with that chubby bearded fellow. But we got another member of the family in here, a beloved one, a Hall of Famer, a former UFC light heavyweight champion, and another new baby on the way here for this fantastic father. Sugar Rashad Evans, my man, my brethren, my brother. I don't know if I have any other words that sound like brother. How is it, my friend?
It's great, man. 2021 is starting off with a bang. As you mentioned, got a new addition to the family. Not getting much sleep, but hey, that's part of what you play. You know, it's part of the game, man. Part of the new baby game. So I'm with it. The baby's with it. The family's with it. We're just enjoying life.
Yeah, King Saul in the house now. Love the name, love the
King of
face,
Soul.
love that little guy. How many children do you have, Rashad? What is he?
That
Four?
that'd be number five. That'd be
Number five. Number
Yeah,
five. Fantastic.
yeah.
Congrats to you and the beautiful wife and the family as well.
Thank you.
Rashad, on a 1 to 10. Okay, 10 being you got a hard on from here to Hanover. 1 being John Fitch's career. How friggin' fired up are you for all things Conor-Dustin too at this moment?
I'm pretty excited about this one. It's getting up to the 10 range, but it's not the 10 range yet. I'm gonna wait till it's the last couple, like the last week or so I know they're getting into the cage, because a whole lot of things can happen between now and then. But as of right now, I'm uber excited, man. I'm uber excited just because Dustin Poirier is looking very good. Conor McGregor is an enigma in himself, and who knows how he's gonna come back looking. So this is gonna be a great fight.
We want to look at the storylines, look at the big things to focus on heading in. Like I said, just a little over 2 weeks out. Please like this video and subscribe so you can keep getting more of this type of content in your face hole from the folks at Morning Combat here. Rashad, now, am I wrong though? Like we're in COVID quarantine. We're in so many, unprecedented stretches in our lives. We just got through the holiday season. I feel like the buzz is muted. Like Conor-Dustin sells itself under any circumstance, no matter what's going on in the world. You're going to find a TV screen. It may end up being our biggest fight, in boxing or MMA for this year, for all we know, unless Floyd and Logan Paul break some records. But I don't feel like there's the typical, like, I know what date it is, I'm counting it down. Is it just the times we live in at the moment?
No, I mean, it could be a little bit of both, but I also think it's the fact that, this 32-year-old Conor McGregor is just not what the young Conor McGregor was, as far as, the trash talking, as far as putting so much on his plate when it comes to building up a fight and just talking that trash. So a little more mature Conor McGregor, and you have a Dustin Poirier who's not going to say much at all anyways. So there's a big, huge respect factor going into this fight. Even Conor McGregor said that he's going to donate like $500K to Dustin Poirier's charity. So, that doesn't, I guess, lay fertile ground to some of the trash talking that we used to Conor McGregor given to get us built up for some of his big fights.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he's been he's been decently busy on social media being Conor, but mostly just one-liners with Ali Abdelaziz to keep that alive. But speaking of Ali, manager of the Stars, look, we know Dana White's going to meet with Ali's one of Ali's biggest clients, of course, Khabib Nurmagomedov, for that final meeting. Everything Khabib has said clings to retirement, vacating the title. UFC and Dana White not making any decisions, though, until that meeting happens. Will we get a GSP fight? Will Khabib comes back? It doesn't look like it, Rashad. So if that meeting happens between now and the fight, when Dustin and Conor touch gloves on January 23rd, will it be for some form of a lightweight world title?
I believe so. If that meeting goes the way that I think it should go, meaning the fact that there's nothing you can offer Khabib. This guy is so wealthy, not only in a material sense, but just on the emotional and internal settlement, the kind of wealth that we all long for, right? That fulfilled feeling. He has that right now. He has more money than he can imagine living where he lives in Dagestan. So, there's not much that can bring him back. So with that said, it only makes sense to make this fight the fight to be the title fight. I mean, you have Conor McGregor, and there's no one else that you probably want in that belt in the hand than a guy like Conor McGregor, who's definitely gonna, bring the numbers and bring the excitement to the 155 division once again.
Yeah, certainly. And you know, belt or no belt, this is going to be a monster. But you know, I've offered up my kidney to the black market a couple months ago. If this fight goes off and there's no title at stake, we're going to see something vacant belt
Yeah.
interim until Habib said whatever. But the true calling of this fight is it's a rematch. It's between two of really the 10 or 12 best fighters in this sport, two of the best fighters of this era. But it's also for control in a lot of ways of this great star-studded lightweight division, whether the winner becomes the champion or gets that first title shot and opportunity. I mentioned a rematch, but it's been a long time since these two fought, right? 2014, I believe it was.
Yeah,
It was at featherweight. It was an early-ish stoppage for Conor McGregor after getting all kinds of inside that P-shaped head of Dustin Poirier. Rashad, the whole narrative leading into this rematch, if there has been one, is I think correct. It's sort of like, well, that was a long ass time ago. Dustin is a completely different fighter. That's true, Rashad. That is true. But sometimes when you own a guy, right? Like this is no disrespect to Dustin. He's going to have 25 minutes to make everything right. But sometimes when you own a guy, do you own him for life? Is there going to be anything mental in this cage where Dustin's like, oh crap, this, if Conor comes out sharp and finding that chin early, where the fact that he's done it before, could that be in Dustin's head at all entering this rematch?
I mean, it definitely can, it definitely can, especially once he gets hit by Conor. And I think that's when the whole like, oh, this happened before type of fear can take over. Once you take that shot and you're just like, man, this guy still hits hard. He's still very accurate. And they can kind of put you in panic mode. But we're dealing with a different Dustin in the fact that in that fight when he fought Conor the first time, he was largely on the receiving end of that left hand. But one thing he didn't do that he's been doing now that's been making him the Dustin that we know is that when a guy hits him, he's giving it back right away. There's no waiting. There's no kind of waiting to set up a shot. He's coming right back in it. And he's usually the last one striking once the guy initiates the exchange. So his counter striking has gotten tremendously better. And he's also learned a few things as far as just how to dig deep and how to entrust the dog in him and know that he can go the distance with some of these big strikers. That confidence, it goes a long way. And he can bring Conor in the deep water if he can take some of those big shots and be able to let Conor know that that big left hand is not going to get him up out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. I threw that sort of teaser out there, that the hook on the end, but the reality is I do believe that Dustin Poirier is just a different dude. He's figured out what he needs to figure out, which is what we all hope for in our own professions, Rashad, to get the very best out of ourselves. It wasn't good enough that night against Habib Nurmagomedov, but, after that fight, before that fight, we'd seen, it's just a different Dustin. It's a guy operating at full speed ahead, all cylinders. The guts and the precision he showed in that Dan Hooker 5-round war reminds you that he's still among the pound for pound best and that there's still an opening here for Dustin Poirier to have his time in his career, not to go down as that interim title holder one time who was, was really good, but couldn't beat Habib, but to go down as a champion, as truly a guy who existed and made, major impacts in this era. I'm surprised he's not the betting favorite. Now, I know sometimes when lines are set, they're set for different reasons to attract large sums of money in different directions. Poirier opened the first fight, mind you, as the favorite. At the end, before the fight happened, Conor became, this time Conor opened as a slight favorite, but it's gotten larger since that original line. Look, I may end up picking Conor. I got 2 weeks to figure it out. I do believe that because he's done it before, mixed with this being a good style matchup for him, mixed with this whole debate of, is this a new reformed Conor? I may lean that way, but even if I lean that way, to me, this is damn straight a 50-50 fight. Are you surprised at all that Poirier with the improvement is not the betting favorite coming in?
I'm not surprised, and here's why. I think that, Poirier's been looking phenomenal in every single fight, and he's been able to make his adjustments according to each fighter that he's fighting. But the thing is the fact that he's been taking so much punishment along the way. I mean, you had the fight with Max, and then you had the fight with Justin Gaethje, and then you had the fight with Habib, and then you had the fight with
Eddie. The two Eddie brawls.
The two Eddie brawls, and then you have a crazy one with Dan Hooker, not too long ago. So
Justin Gaethje.
The wars that he's been in. So he's proved that he's battle tested. But at the same time, when you're going in there with a heavy puncher like Conor McGregor, has he taken too much punishment to take some of the punishment that he may sustain against a big puncher like Conor McGregor? And I think that's why we see the odds just saying, like, you know what, this, we have a dog in Dustin Poirier, but at the same time, he might not be able to take those blows because going into this fight, because Conor's been less active, he's the fresher fighter.
Yeah, he certainly is. Let's talk about Conor and the state of Conor McGregor at this moment. And it's not easy to deduce, right, Rashad? He's fought just twice since he beat Eddie Alvarez for the lightweight title to end 2016. In addition, obviously, the Mayweather boxing match. But the 229 loss to Khabib was largely one-sided. He said it a million times. I didn't really go for it in that training camp, right? He teased that there were a lot of extracurriculars. So we'll give him that pass that maybe there's a better version of him. I think that better version showed up against Cowboy Cerrone, dialed in, no longer looking to mentally fight people, looking to be a precision, guy who goes in there and carries out the game plan. The problem, of course, is the fight lasted 40 seconds. And with this version of Cowboy Cerrone and the fact that it was at welterweight, we don't know how much fool's gold is in there. What would that same version of him look like against a more elite guy? Well, certainly we're going to find out January 23rd. Where are you at to guys like me who we're sniffing the glue, maybe a little too much after that Cowboy fight, thinking, good God, if this guy does come back and physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually give himself back to this sport at a level he has not been at since 2016, there's still time left on that clock for him to be that guy again. Do you think we can still get a super elite pound for pound version of Conor McGregor on UFC 257?
Yeah, I definitely believe so. And in order to be able to put that into perspective, I want to go back and find a black box in the wreckage, as you will, of the Khabib fight. And when I look through that fight and when I look at the tapes and I see, what kind of we were dealing with, he didn't do as bad as I guess time would tell. When we see the Justin Gaethjes and we see how Khabib has handled everybody else, we see, when I look at that fight, I look at a Conor who had really good takedown defense in the center of the octagon, who was able to work his way back up to his feet after getting dominated in a ground position, which no one usually gets back up from, and then went around after that. So, he didn't win the fight. He got mauled. He's got destroyed. But at the same time, there was some wins in that fight from. There was something to hang his hat on and say, okay, he's grown leaps and bounds in areas where we didn't think so. So now we move to the to the Cowboy fight. And now we're looking at a very strong, very proficient and very tactical Conor McGregor in that fight. Cool, calm, and collected. He was full of poise and he was determined. Now, if you take what he did with Khabib and then you take what he did with Cowboy, we're looking at the fact that, Conor could be coming into his own as we have never seen. He's been talking big time about how he's coming into the fight, how he wants to make a big statement in this fight, and how this is going to be the fight that really sets a precedent of how he's going to compete at the 155 division. Now, Conor at 32 years old is kind of coming to his own, because when I was like 33, I felt like I was kind of getting the strongest that I was, coming into my own as far as strength wise. And then you take the fact that he has the knowledge that he had from the past. This could be a very dangerous Conor.
When I sometimes say that about combat sports athletes, when I'll mention that the actual prime, not the physical prime, the physical prime probably, anywhere between 24 and 28, depending on your body and your growth and all that. But the actual prime of your career, where the mental, the experience, the confidence catches up with what's still left of the physical prime. In the past, like you said, if you were 32, 33 in either sport, you were sort of on the way out. It's certainly changed these days. Is that the actual prime? Am I making sense there, because the knowledge catches up and it's such a factor at that point?
Yeah, I believe so. Especially like you said, mixed martial arts, it takes a while to develop, and kind of get your understanding of how to compete. When you're younger, you compete a lot out of emotion, and that takes you so far, but then you run into a snag with using emotion as your main fuel. And then you have to recalibrate and get a different understanding of how to compete and why you compete a certain kind of way. And I think you've seen that with Conor. No longer does he need to bring the antics out and all this stuff. Not saying that he won't, but at the same time, he's not relying on that. He's not relying on that as his main source of fuel. You can fight a lot longer just being cool, calm, and collected, and having a more, I guess, more like a relaxed approach to the fight game. And I think that's what we see with Conor happening here. You know, is a lot has to remain to be seen. How does he do once he get inside the octagon? Because he has been out for a while, and being out for a while, you do get a little bit of ring rust. You do get a little bit of, okay, this feels a little bit different here, but I really haven't seen too much ring rust in Conor McGregor in his fights.
It's interesting because we may look back at this lost weekend, if you will, whatever you want to call it, where Conor in the end of 2016 walked away from the octagon, didn't come back for over 2 years. We may look at that, Rashad, even though he had the Mayweather fight in between, as sort of the recharge maybe that he needed to set up for a second prime. And I say that because you mentioned that his old way of doing things, right? Like ahead of when he was going to fight RDA, but it turned into Nate Diaz, ahead of the second Nate Diaz fight, ahead of the Eddie Alvarez fight. He is so friggin' wired, like ridiculous. It fueled him, but it also led to burnout at the same time. He exited that Eddie Alvarez fight saying, I got to take some time off. Like, then that had been a grind. That had been 4 fights in 12 months for him at the highest level with trash talk filled camps, all this drama around that. The idea of him being past that, not needing that fuel, finding different fuel, finding peace of mind, and having had the physical rest of the last 4 years. Is there something to that? I mean, not everybody can do that. Floyd Mayweather could take a year off, 2 years off, and come back looking crisp as F. Could this be a fountain of youth situation for McGregor because he took that time?
I think it can be. And I think a lot of things needed to sort out for Conor McGregor in that time, you know, being the Conor McGregor who he was, and just that takes on a whole life of itself. And now it seems as if like he has an understanding that he doesn't need to be Conor McGregor. He just is Conor McGregor, and just being the isness of who he is, you know, and by that, I mean, you know, there are sometimes you be a certain way, you be what people expect you to be, right? So you do the antics and you do all the things that you're known for. But when you just are, and when you're in your isness, you're not even trying to express any of what you expect people. You all right, baby?
Yeah, I'm going to survive this. All right.
But you're not expecting. You're not trying to dive into what people think you should be. You're just dealing with who you are. And I think that's the Conor McGregor who we're dealing with right now, or more focused Conor, a Conor who's not going against himself anymore.
Yeah, and he survived the, in some ways, inevitable hangover that comes with that much fame and success, right? You know, he hasn't been without some really bad headlines and bad situations, but he survived it. And now he's the betting favorite coming into what is probably the biggest fight of his opponent's career. You can argue the Khabib fight was bigger for Poirier, but there's redemption in this one. It's at, you know, when you're fighting Conor McGregor, it's at a higher level. The title in some form will probably be at stake. So it's a good time to be Conor McGregor. He's back, and it's a good time to be an MMA fan because this fight has so much potential to bang. Let's talk about the actual fight, and it's early. We got some time to hear from them. Although, look, to support any form of Conor optimism, I just saw an ESPN story from Mark Ramundi talking to Conor's trainer and seeing the pictures. I know you hear that every camp, but he seems to be in the best shape he's ever been. And I mean, he's absolutely ripped. They haven't been at 155 in 4 years, you know, in a while. Sorry, except for the Khabib comeback fight. But everything seems to be a go. And that end, you know, Poirier is going to be ready. Nothing stopping him. So is this fight going to see the ground at all outside of knockdowns? Do you see any situation where it goes there?
I really don't see a situation where this hits the ground. I mean, you know, I've seen a few clips of Conor being able to do some cool level changes and get some takedowns. And it was something I didn't expect, but he looked very fluid and he looked very like a true martial artist in his transitions from doing so. So he has the capability to take the fight where he wants to, and he has a brown belt on the ground, so he has ability on the ground as well too to even impose himself on the ground. But when it comes to where his bread is buttered at, there's no doubt about it. It's on his feet, you know, controlling the range, just being Mystic Mac, you know, being able to control the range, being able to land that big left hand, and being, you know, standing out with those kicks, those phenomenal kicks that he does, those front teep the kicks that he does, keeping his opponents off balance. I think this is where this fight goes. I mean, Dustin Poirier, it would behoove him to be able to make it into some kind of a fight where it gets to the ground, or some kind of fight where there's some kind of physical contention where Conor's going to have to wrestle his way out of it, because that changes up the energy facility for Conor. You know, he's used to being out open and being fluid, but when you start to interject some grappling in there, then it changes things. Then it changes how you're holding yourself, how you're posturing, how you're breathing. That's what Dustin's going to have to do to be able to break Conor out of his groove.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to sort of follow it up. You hit part of that in the answer, though, of, you know, what can Conor watch? We haven't seen, I'm sorry, what can Dustin watch of the rare times we've seen Conor in turmoil? And I don't think you can watch the Khabib fight and learn a ton, because Poirier's not the wrestler. Khabib is, obviously. Can Dustin watch certain elements of the two Nate fights and see something to expose in Conor outside of walking him down with big strikes? I mean, if Dustin raises the pace of this fight, makes it more of a track meet, that's got to favor him.
Absolutely. I think the Dustin fight, I mean, the Diaz fights are perfect fights to watch, because one thing that we didn't see a lot of ground action happen, but what we did see is we've seen a lot of T on T. That means throw on throw. That means Conor was throwing a punch and then it was coming back, and it was not too much of a waiting in between. And the counter attacks were so fast to the point where they were fighting in the phone booth a lot of the times. And I think that's the kind of fight that's a little bit harder for Conor, you know, because it doesn't allow him to be able to whip that straight left hand with the range that he does. You know, that left hand has a lot of potency, but at a certain range, it doesn't hit like it does when he has a full distance that he likes to have, a full range. So if Dustin can make it just into a phone booth fight for a little bit, work the body a little bit, those are the kind of things that's going to make it a closer fight. Those are the kind of things that may give him the striking advantage. And those are the kind of things that may take a little bit out of Conor McGregor's gas tank.
God, you're getting me fired up for this fight. You did mention T on T. That usually means tip on tip in these cards, which I was like, whoa, I didn't think they're that close. Rashad. You know, maybe after the fight.
Don't tip.
Is there something that you will be looking for? You know, you're the expert here, with much due respect here, earthquake survivor on top of that. When you sit down and that fight turns on, and that first, 10 seconds where we're all giddy as the balls happens, what are you looking for to see? Is there one thing that, like, oh, if I see that early, I'm going to know where this is going?
Yeah, for one, I'm going to look for how Conor controls the range and how Dustin Poirier responds to it. For one, if he starts backing up on the outside edge, then I know it's going to just be a matter of time before Conor is able to land a big left hand. But at the same time, if I see Dustin Poirier being able to use his footwork, but then use his fakes and feints to put Conor into a reactionary position, then I know it's going to be a little bit closer contention on the feet. And I think that's what Dustin has to do. He has to be able to put Conor on his heel, make Conor react to him coming at him, and then that will allow him to build some offense off of. Another thing that Dustin Poirier did in his last fight with Dan Hooker, fighting a taller, longer guy, he utilized his kicks very well. Utilizing his kicks very well, was able to help him with the distance, and going against a guy who's a distance expert like Conor McGregor, utilizing those kicks would be a great tool to use, and it'd be something that he doesn't have to commit to as much as far as putting his body in the way of harm, but just something that he can poke and make Conor react to it, and he can start to build his offense. The biggest thing for Dustin Poirier is to find some kind of offense early that builds his offense. The first fight they had out, he didn't build his offense because Conor McGregor was able to control him right away and made him feel weird because he was able to control the range right out the gate.
Yeah, if Poirier ends up being the reactor in this fight and he allows Conor to dictate all the terms as you sort of laid out, it could be a repeat in some ways of the first one. Not as easy, not as, straight to the point maybe, but it's going to be interesting. So it's going to be interesting if Conor comes out, as we saw in the short snippet of the Cowboy fight, with new stuff, with creative stuff. I mean, look, he was a wildly creative guy in his early UFC run. Then he sort of, stayed with played the hits, and it was lining up with that left hand, and that was good enough. I'm wondering if we do see with all this time away, with having watched the sport, as you know, Rashad, I mean, you can't even take a year off in the sport without it evolving right past you. I don't doubt that Conor's going to be ready and will have added tools to the cliche. Yeah.
You know what's surprising? The tea bag. Yeah. You know what surprised me in that fight with Cowboy and Conor was just how strong Conor was. Conor was really strong in that fight. When I went back and just watched that fight and just watched how he was just able to just dismantle Cowboy in minutes, it was so impressive because the strikes that he did were very creative, but at the same time, just the power that he seemed to have. He had such a huge power advantage, and that left hand, it just hit different, and it reminded me of that thing that Mike Tyson says, that saying that he has, everybody has a plan until they get punched. Well, Conor McGregor with that left hand showed that in that fight. He showed that he has a
little bit of technical difficulties there. Lost Rashad for a second. The power going out.
DC, what is it, man? I always something. Last time the interview cut short, my phone died, and now the power goes out. I don't know what's going on in South Florida.
It wouldn't be a morning combat production if something bullshit didn't happen technologically. But Rashad, you were sort of laying out. We were laying out the game plans to potential victory for both. A little more than 2 weeks out. Conor-Dustin 2. Can't wait for it. I want to just close. We look at the winner being the potential, the champion at this weight class, let alone the power player. Is it Gaethje next? I mean, Conor McGregor's setting up to have the kind of 2021, if he wins against Poirier, that we thought he would have in 2019, which is fight early in the year, have a 3-fight year, come back, get consistent, get that momentum build again. If he gets by Poirier or if Poirier wins, either way, are we looking at Justin Gaethje next in your matchmaking tunnel vision here?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, but there's one guy that you cannot forget about. There's Charles Oliveira, man. Charles Oliveira, he's out there. He's looking like that guy. I wouldn't be surprised to see, maybe Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje competing for that #1 shot.
I forgot about Do Bronx. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And if it wasn't for Do Bronx, this rap shit probably never would be going on, right? So tell me where you from. Also, Michael Chandler, of course, in that mix, going to fight Dan Hooker on the same night. If Conor wins, we could look at, imagine if Conor's 3 fights in 2021 are Poirier, Gaethje or Oliveira, and then maybe a boxing match with Manny Pacquiao. So you're seeing what's really at stake here. It goes beyond just that lightweight title. So this fight, absolutely massive.
It definitely matters. But one thing I would say, if Conor does win this fight and he does get the championship, he gets the title, I would tell him, I would want for him, if I was coaching, if I was managing him, I would want him to keep his eyes on the prize at least this year. By that, I mean, not spread himself thin by doing a boxing match or anything right now, because if he pulls his foot off the gas, provided he wins against a very tough Dustin Poirier, he's gonna. There's the Charles Oliveira, there's the Justin Gaethje, there's the Michael Chandler, there's the Dan Hooker, and there's so many guys at the 155 division. It's the toughest division that are just chomping at the bit to be next. You take some time, and when you go away, if he does that, take some time to go away into boxing. When he comes back, he's going to be dealing with a whole different ball of wax. I think right now, if he put pedal to the metal right now and just really focus on MMA, by the end of the year, he can have pulled away from the pack. And that's the difference of putting your focus in fighting and putting it somewhere else. Can he do both? Yeah, he probably can do both. Conor McGregor has proven to do both. But at the same time, when you have the talent that is at 155, I think there's no reason to go anywhere else.
I love that point, because just Conor announcing this fight as opposed to a Nate Diaz trilogy or some, creative circus fight, whatever, this shows that he's serious again. You don't always get a second chance to be the biggest name in the sport and be in a power position. So he's worked hard. If he can beat Poirier, I think you're right. I think it would be smart to sort of stay, especially with your biggest boogeyman, Khabib's gone. Maybe your second biggest boogeyman, Tony Ferguson, may never be the same again. Yes, there's tough as nails guys that we just mentioned, but either way, it's going to shape up to be a great year. If Dustin Poirier wins, he will have, likely achieved that the full potential of becoming a champion, and imagine future fights with him against Oliveira, rematch with Gaethje, on and on. Tony Ferguson, It's only going to get better from there. Obviously, we'll have you covered front to back, in between, and we'll even reach around for you for Fight Week, UFC 257, January 23rd from Fight Island, part of that 3 fight cards in 8 nights. Even though Dana White's putting me up in the videos there, talking bad about this being the face of the man trying to bring down MMA, they're setting us up nicely here for 2021. So Dana, enjoy the yacht you're on for Christmas break. I'm sure you've earned it there, brother. Rashad Evans, looking kind of jacked, bro. All right.
Hey, I've been getting some push-ups in. I'm trying to get it back, man. You know, training's got me feeling a certain kind of way. I can't say I'm gonna do a comeback, BC, because I know how you like to throw some gas on those flames, but I'm feeling pretty good lately. I'm feeling pretty good.
Don't go near TRTV Tour. Don't go near Rumble Johnson. Okay. All right. We got business with one man, as I have just named myself your agent and manager. Sorry, Ali. We have business with one man, Lyoto Machida. Thank you. We will run that back, and it'll begin a Legends Reunion Get Back Tour. Sam Alvey, you're next, my friend. All right. Thank you very much. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff for Rashad Evans. This is your boy, BC Brian Campbell. Check us out live 3 days a week. Morning Combat. So many bonuses coming your way. Rashad, do you have 2 extra words for the people by any chance?
Yeah. We out.